this is my first time ever hearing about this Broadway musical. So apparently, Cynthia Erivo, who played in Wicked as that Green Witch person, who I will remember her name at some point in this show, but she will be playing Jesus Christ in a hey, it's Mama
Yes,
Prophet. She's
Nigerian.
38
Yep. Yep.
and of Nigerian descent. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
She looks Nigerian. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people from the UK that are like the Black Brits, I think most of them are like specifically Nigerian. I could be wrong
Hmm.
though. Don't quote me. But um yeah. So she played in Wicked and now she's about to play Jesus Christ in a Broadway musical called Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, I've never heard of this Broadway musical, but apparently it's from the 70s. And I'll go through the article because it tells a lot more of the information about who originally wrote the Broadway musical and everything, and why there's so much controversy surrounding it. I mean, usually when the world gets involved with something, you can kind of tell that this is not going to be a good indication of it. But hey, I could be wrong. I'm willing to take that. So we'll go through this article from the Huffington Post, and it's the UK version of it. So it's a little, I'm going to read it in a British accent for you guys. So,
I love it. He does a really good British accent.
Jesus Christ superstar writer jumps to Cynthia Erivo's defense amid backlash. That was terrible. Backlash over her casting. Yeah, I give up. So, the Wicked star is set to play Jesus in a much hyped new production of the hit musical. Mm, yeah. See where this is going. So, Jesus Christ superstar songwriter Tim Rice has voiced his support for Cynthia Erivo ahead of her leading performance in a new production of the hit musical over this summer. So, it's going to actually be this summer when she'll be starring as Jesus. So, Tim and
Hmm.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. Hmm. Oh, Tim and Andrew Lloyd Webber co wrote the rock opera together in the 1970s, with Cynthia set to play Jesus in an updated version of the show at the Hollywood Bowl later this year. So, real quick, I mean, they do Broadway musicals all the time, like remakes of movies and movies to remakes and stuff, just a bunch of stuff, right? And eventually, you just run out of ideas, and so you remake things. And so it's a good thing that I'm seeing this, just because I had never even heard of this before, of this Broadway musical Jesus Christ Superstar, but apparently it's been around since the 70s. And so I did a little research about what it's about, and apparently it's about like Judas. It's from like Judas's perspective,
Hmm.
and apparently the entire play surrounds his position in Jesus's life and whether he believes he's actually the Messiah or not. And the thing is, if that's the true premise of the Broadway musical, it's already wrong. And I say that only because it wasn't the fact that he was debating whether Jesus was the Messiah. It's just that he loved his greed more than he chose to follow Jesus. So there goes that. But you know how it happens when the world gets involved with something biblical. It twists it and distorts it. And so, yeah, we'll continue. However, when the news was announced last week, many news outlets reported on a supposed backlash. Why is it in air quotes? I don't understand. Um,
Yeah.
from some critics upset about the idea of a woman playing the role of Jesus. Now, it's way more than just a woman playing the role of Jesus, but you know what? I'll get to that. During an interview on LBC on Monday, presenter Nick Ferrari remarked that some people were saying that this was a bit of a stretch, to which the EGOT recipient agreed, "It is a bit of a stretch, but I think it's quite exciting." I read it in my older white male voice. Hailing Cynthia as a wonderful performer and a great singer, Tim was then asked, "But Jesus doesn't have to be a man?" "I don't think so," he insisted. "Nobody knows exactly what Jesus looks like, and probably the image of Jesus a lot of people have is probably inaccurate." Okay. Tim
Wait,
continued.
whoa, whoa. I can't. What? So
So
just because
yeah,
we don't
Yeah.
know what he,
this right here, just in itself, you can basically stop right there and you have a lot of people that's given their either their opinion or what they heard from somebody else, because it's a lot of, well, I think this. And just because you haven't, maybe they haven't immersed themselves in it, or well, actually in the word, in the message of the Bible, in the message of Jesus and his kingdom agenda, it doesn't mean that it's a fairy tale. But apparently, just think about it. You don't, like, okay, this was made in the 1970s, and I actually went and listened to like a few of the songs. The songs wasn't like, it didn't sound like blasphemous from the few songs that I heard, even though it's like rock and roll and everything. But what I will say, just with, I would say, her background and all the things that she, I would say, what her character is, based on what she have shown, and based on what she promotes. Um, it's not the best representation, uh, especially for just messaging and culture, messaging for little kids, for people, and also people that's actually in the middle of, hey, I really don't understand, or I really don't know a lot about Christ. I know I hear about his love. I know I hear about this, but this right here is actually doing what they've been doing for so long, is trying to blur the lines. I mean, you don't have to do very much to distort the truth. All you have to do is just add a little bit. Oh yeah, especially with this movement of everyone, I guess, having a, in my opinion, having a identity crisis. This is what, okay, well, Jesus wasn't a man, he was a woman. What? Yeah, so yeah.
No, I think
No,
my
yeah.
my problem is that they're being disingenuous, like, or at least this Tim guy, I guess, because he's
Hmm.
like, if you came out and said your true intentions, then I could just be like, okay, at least you were honest. I may not agree with
Yep.
you, but at least you were honest. But this guy's like, I don't think so. Like, look, Jesus, nobody knows what he looks like, and the depictions we have are probably inaccurate. But it's like, all right, that's may be true, but you're masking your real intent behind why you want a woman to play the role of Jesus. And the reason that they
Mhm.
want a woman to play the role of Jesus is because they have this agenda to try to make everything so fluid within society and androgynous within society, which that's their prerogative if they want to push that agenda. But that's not what I'm on, and that's not what I'm pushing, and that's not what I believe the scriptures push as well. And so it's just the 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 level of, you know, the lack of, or I guess the disingenuous nature of how they're presenting this is the problem. And then, stating that it's like backlash is like, no, like people are probably a little, thrown off. It's like, hey, no, like we
Not a
get,
little, a lot.
yeah, like, okay, we get, like, if Jesus came now, if you were trying to push all of this because of where society has pushed itself, then it'd be like, okay, we'd still be like, no, Jesus is a man, but it would make more sense according to the cultural zeitgeist, right? But if you're trying to play and portray something that's historically accurate, right, and show true history, and you're just not gonna have a woman play Jesus Christ. That just doesn't make any sense. And then, people may say, because I can see this coming up, they may say that, oh, like in the Shakespeare plays, the Shakespearean plays, like men played women's roles and, had to dress up as women and cross dress, which is all true, right? But that's also
Yep.
because in that society, it was very misogynist. Women weren't allowed to do, things like that. And so they were so silly that instead of just letting a woman play a woman's role, they had men play it. So it was
Right.
just weird. But we're not in that space now. Like you could just easily go get a man to play the role of Jesus, which is probably what you should do.
Yeah, but it's exactly right. It's about blurring the lines and it's about concealing the true intent, which is to make everything as equal as possible on every front. And the Bible warns about this of having false versions of Christ. it's not just about the casting choice, it's about you attempting to reshape the image of Jesus to fit your cultural agenda. It's about changing his identity and making him more inclusive. And it's no longer about faith, it's about entertainment, it's about spectacle and secular influence. And so it really just comes down to what the intent is. And so I truly believe that when you heard those songs, Alan, that they probably weren't blasphemous. But that's the thing about like distortion. They put a little bit of lie in it, a little bit of
That
poison,
is true.
and now
It's
they're
true.
like, well, it's just a little bit. I mean, the rest of it is fine. And it's not even that bad, you know? But it's like if you had some water with a little bit of poison in it, you're still not going to drink it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I like that. I like that,
Right.
Miracle.
It just it upsets me. But we can read the rest of the article a little bit. Oh, why can't I see this? I need this bar
Jesus
to
is
move.
male. Jesus is a male. Luke 7:49. That is what Miss Sonia Prophet
There we
just, gave. I wonder, can you bring that
what?
scripture up? But
Let's see.
come
Oh,
on with it.
let's see.
Well, hold up. Okay, there we
The,
go.
the other guests began to say among themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sin?"
Hold on, let me go to my
That's why it's
NRSV.
good to read different versions of the Bible, everyone.
Let's go to this one.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what
16.
version she was coming from, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But hey, we definitely appreciate the comment and everything. So
Oh yeah.
just everything when it comes to Miss Cynthia, I think that just based on what I've read about her, just even like the background, based on what I've seen, like she hasn't came out and said anything, I guess, negative or blasphemous against Jesus, but I will say her character and her culture has actually, uh, I mean, just like I mean, a lot of things that we see is blatant mockery, and so we all know that this probably would not happen with the Muslim community and Allah. And I
Oh
mean, I don't
no.
think on my research, I don't think it has ever happened. And so, but I will say that I think there is a silver lining in all of this, is because you would not try to attack something that isn't real, that deep down inside, like, okay, he outside, even outside of the Bible, he is a historical figure. And I just would just hang my hat on that. And I will say this: we better thank God right now. Thank thank Jesus right now, Jesus Christ right now, that he doesn't think like man, because stuff like this is like, you're not preaching my message to where I sent Jesus, who is the best reflection of God, to actually come and send my message. You are sending a message of the world. You're you're sending a message of confusion, rebellion, and we all know what happens when you actually rebel against God, especially back in the
Yeah, we've seen
Old
it.
Testament. Yeah, like rebellion actually got death. Like if you go back to Leviticus, oh,